And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It almost feels like forever since we've even had done a show. Great to be back here on a Friday. We got a lot going on. The NHL Draft is upon us, and we've also got the NBA Draft analysis as well as we recap from the draft. So many other trades. We got everything going on here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. You know, I really am excited for it. Plus, we've also got our special guest coming up. Former offensive lineman Derwin Gray is going to be joining us here. We'll be talking a lot about the Brendan Sorsby story. Also talking about the up-and-coming season, especially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's so much happening all around. So first of all, there was a big trade that ended up happening here as we got the NHL Draft going on right this moment. So the Vegas Golden Knights, who had lost the Stanley Cup final to the Carolina Hurricanes, and then not to mention they lost more than that. At the end of it, the Golden Knights are ultimately trying to get as much as they can. And so I did not have a problem with the Golden Knights making this move with Pavel Dorofeyev now going to the New York Rangers. I think it's a smart move. The other thing is, too, is that it also involved a first-round pick tonight. So they get pick number 26. And I think the Golden Knights, it's very clear. They know where they're going to put their money on. And Pavel Dorofeyev, in the last few years, who has been a 30-plus goal scorer, knows he's going to get paid. And Vegas knows he's going to get paid. And so the Rangers now, who had lost Chris Kreider to Anaheim, has lost our Timmy Panarin to the LA Kings, knows they need offense. They need a spark plug. Because I do love Adam Fox, and I do like Mika Zibanejad. I think the Rangers, because what you've seen with their next-door neighbors, the Islanders, how they've got that young kid Schaefer, who I think is going to have a bright future, and they got a new head coach. This is going to be interesting. And they needed some much-needed offense because they've been lacking that for quite a while. And so, to me, I mean, this was ultimately a disappointment with Mike Sullivan as the head coach, because I thought this team would have been much better than what they were last year, and apparently I was wrong. So they get a first-round pick, a third-round pick this year, and a projected top 10 first-round pick in 28. So what the Golden Knights are doing is they lost a second round after John Tortorella did not end up speaking to the media in a wrongful manner, which not only did it cost them $100K, but it cost the Golden Knights a second-round pick. I mean, you be the judge of this. Because to me, we know Vegas is a cutthroat type business. Okay, that's just the way it is. All right, people can love it, can hate it. They don't care. But ultimately, you can tell smart businesses by the moves they make. And so there's a lot we really we've got to discuss because there's a lot that really went on, and I'm excited for it. But at the end of the day, I do think that the Golden Knights are making it right for themselves because ultimately there's a lot of trade talks. There's Connor Hellebuck. There's Dylan Larkin. They ultimately want to get themselves an offensive player because there's some contracts they really have to release out. They got to end up opening up cap space. So I felt like this was the smart decision by Vegas to do this. Yeah, it's unfortunate how they really are going to go about this, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with it. I think Vegas understands that. They're a smart business. They know he's going to get paid, and Vegas doesn't really have the funds to really pay out for a player who I think, is going to give you 30-plus goal scorers. So, I mean, I like it. And I'm sure the Rangers, they absolutely love it too. All right. So there was a lot of interesting stories that happened up into the NBA. And we know we've gotten a lot of trades. We also had the NBA draft. So let's start with the moves that were initially made. So I love the move that the Minnesota Timberwolves did for themselves because, first of all, we just watched the NBA Finals with the Knicks and the Spurs. And if you're in the Western Conference and you're the Timberwolves, you are looking around you and you're watching the Spurs with Victor Wembanyama go to a finals. You're watching OKC and SGA do exactly the things that they do and are still a tough team to play against in the West. You also look at the Lakers with Luka Doncic. You look at, I know people don't really want to take the Rockets seriously, but they're a good team. So you're looking around the Western Conference, and even for Denver, like you're looking at them with Nikola Jokic, and he even came out and he ultimately put his team on blast. Like, this is not a good team. They need to be better. So you're Minnesota, you're evaluating everything around you. And number one is, I do like their point. I do love Ayo. I do think he's a really good defensive piece. I also do think he gives you a good amount of offense. But you also look at Mike Conley, where he's getting up in age. He's not the same Mike Conley as he once was in Memphis and all around. But he's a very good veteran presence. And that's the only thing. So, to me, going and getting LaMelo Ball to coming into Minnesota was the best decision they can do. All right? And in my opinion, when I look at this, they need a really good ball handler at the point guard. They also need somebody who's a really good scorer. You're not going to get defense much from LaMelo Ball, but that's what Anthony Edwards, that's what Jaden McDaniels, that's what Rudy Gobert are for. And you have a lot of really good defensive rotations. I mean, you just watch the Miami Heat go and get Giannis, which I'll talk about a little bit about that later. But to me, I'm excited for Minnesota, and it's the move that they needed to make. You're not going to go and evaluate all around in the Western Conference and not make a move like this. Like, I think Minnesota, outside of the Twins, who really haven't been giving you anything since the years in which they had Kadire and Kubel and Morneau and Maurer, like, they're not giving you much to really be excited for. The Vikings got Kyler Murray, and we're hoping that the offense really pans out. This is the best offense that you could ask for in Minnesota for the Vikings. And then you look at the Minnesota Wild, who they're planning to bring back Quinn Hughes. And then there's the Timberwolves. You got to go and take a big swing. Because to me personally, the way I look at the Timberwolves is the same way I look at Gonzaga basketball. I mean, they're a talented team. But how many times have we caught ourselves asking the question? We love Mark Few. We love Chris Finch. But when are they going to take a big swing? That's initially what it comes down to. And they finally did it with LaMelo Ball. They need a really good ball handler. They need somebody who can distribute the ball very well and at the same time can take the shots. Because ultimately you're going to have the driver in Anthony Edwards who's going to get physical, who's going to drive the basket, give you a bucket. And at the same time, you just need somebody that's going to give you the threes. Somebody who's going to distribute the ball more often. I mean, all the defensive stuff between Gobert and Edwards and McDaniels, they're going to be fine. And I think they could add a couple of defensive specialists here or there, even within the draft. But you're noticing around in the league, like the impactful moves that will really help an organization and really help a group. So I think the LaMelo Ball trade, I love it. I really do love this for Minnesota because you're watching Denver, you're watching the Lakers, you're watching OKC, and you're watching the Spurs. I mean, you're not going to sit around and not make a move like that. That's unheard of. So I think this was the best decision they did, and I think it's going to make them offensively better. I don't see any reason that this team can't possibly get themselves over the hump. I don't see a world in which they can't. So I think this was the best decision they can make. Whew. We got a lot to talk about. Man, it feels like forever since I've even had a show up. And now I have to catch myself back up as usual. But so good to be here with all of you guys here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Been quite a while. Coming up next, because we got Derwin Gray around the corner at the bottom half of the hour. And, my big takeaway is the Brendan Sorsby situation is one that's so unique. But I also do believe it should be a reminder to the young-minded kids that are talented athletes. But in life, there's not always easy routes, and neither are there handouts. And this is the thing about the Brendan Sorsby situation. And to me, the NFL and the Canadian Football League did the right thing. And I'll explain a little bit about that coming up next, plus the Giannis situation, and we'll be keeping up also on the trade rumors in the NHL. Really excited for a lot that's happening up and in sports thus far in the last few weeks. Been really, really excited about it. All righty, folks. We already know the summertime is hot and heated, and much like the FIFA World Cup and all over in sports. Well, to keeping yourselves locked in, this is where my good partners at Payday Fantasy really come up and into the clutch. Everything is happening all up and in sports, and you do not want to end up missing out on the action. Payday Fantasy Sports gives you everything you need to know. From player picks, props, so much more. Plus, best guarantees that you could get. All you got to do is use the promo code for when you come in and you sign up. Free $5 just by utilizing us. And as a special treat, 100% deposit match of up to $100 just by using the code SNAKE. That's all you got to use. Just use the code SNAKE. 100% of up to $100. So the more you buy in, the more chances to win. And plus, you could play it with your friends, family, coworkers, and so much more. Check out why Payday Fantasy is the proud partners of the Snake Sports Talk Show, and we love the platform that gives you the best guarantees. Here at Payday Fantasy, get paid with Payday Fantasy.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
So Pavel Dorofeev is headed to New York in the Big Apple, and meanwhile, he's signing a 7-year, $77 million contract, $11 million per year. Good for Pavel Dorofeev and good for the New York Rangers, who really needed some desperate offense. So the Brendan Sorsby situation, this is fascinating to me because, number one, okay, I'm born in the millennial years in 1995, okay? And so to me, what I would consider this is that I always want to be the best mentor that I can be, okay? The best mentor, especially for the younger generation, Gen Z, all that. But over the past few years, I have noticed so much of a change in society. And I've noticed a change in the status quo. And there is still a part of which in life where you got to have a really good balance, because growing up and even being a father myself, but my biggest thing is I want to share with my son, and even for my future kids, I want to share them the things that I learned as a child and what I've experienced but have a different route than what I've gone through, but yet still have the consistency, still have the balance, still have the gratitude. That's all I care about. And it's important. So Brendan Sorsby, this was the report, is that he was planning to end up going into the supplemental draft. And the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business, and they take these things seriously. Brendan Sorsby, who is dealing with a gambling addiction and not truthfully coming out and really taking account for what had happened. Okay, because we know in college, okay, all of us, we've all either graduated or attended college at some point in our lives, I hope. But we all know that these are young, adolescent-minded kids at the end of the day. It's college, okay? I mean, you can't sit here and tell me that you've never even have seen or experienced like frat parties, sororities, all the college, all the college lifestyle. I mean, that's just the way it is in life. That's just how it's designed. Okay. There's so many different college stories, but for Brendan Sorsby, because particularly he wasn't wagering against his own team or for his own team. This was mostly wagers that he spent thousands of dollars on other sports. And listen, I come from a town, a city that we all know has the most prominent addictions ever. Consumers, okay, because we all know we live in shopping malls these days. And then, of course, casinos and bars, the strip. It's so easy to let Vegas get a hold of you like that. It is. So for Brendan Sorsby, because he spent thousands of dollars, and then at the same time, like he had his lawyers, he's had his attorneys, trying to basically put up and on paper that Brendan has attended a lot of the therapies and then also the programs in order for him to get right. They try to put this all up and on paper. And Brendan Sorsby, what makes it a bad look for him is because knowing the NFL has a supplemental draft and said, you know what? The NCAA isn't going to reinstate me. So I'm just going to go into the supplemental draft. And the NFL, they're going to have to hold it. Okay? Because they know they're going to have, to me, they're like to him, they know they're going to have to hold it anyway. But the NFL said timeout. We're not giving you an easy spoon, like an easy spoon to feed you on. Okay. So they've canceled the supplemental draft this year. And then on top of that, even a league north of the border in Canada have reached out to every organization there and has said, do not sign this guy. So, okay. This is all discipline. All right, folks. Here's what's funny about this, because we have seen disciplinary actions for so many years. Okay, let me give you a perfect example. Shedeur Sanders going into the 5th round of the draft was more of making an example for Shedeur Sanders that you are not above the organizations and you're not above the program. Deal done. Now he's with the Cleveland Browns, and people feel like it's purgatory. But we know Shedeur is highly talented. 72% completion percentage. Knows he's got a really good arm. Knows exactly how he's got that finesse touch to get the over the top of the shoulder. He knows how to do that. And in my opinion, I feel like he's learned from that. But then at the same time, it's because also people don't really appreciate so much of the antics that his dad has done. And his dad's got other fish to fry. He's got to be thinking of his health. He's got to be thinking of Colorado's program. So with this, Brendan Sorsby, like we're in a society where apparently accountability is so overrated for a lot of our youngsters. And this is the thing, right? Because ultimately, taking account for an action and a choice you've made is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not. Some people feel like it's overrated. Some people think it's the wrong move. Well, guess what, bruh? You need to stop listening to a lot of the people who tell you it's overrated. Seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know his personal life like that, but I can guarantee you this, that there is no spoon feeding in society. There's no spoon feeding in life. And yet they still exist. I'm not giving them crap for it, but to me, it's like we could be better. I'm a parent, and we could all be better. I'm not telling you how to parent, but at the end of the day, when I watch kids who honestly think that they're above the law or above the program, or above the league, how am I to tolerate that? It's setting an example, and this is why I always say, make discipline better. Again, I don't understand why people have such a hard time with that. And for Brendan Sorsby, this is a disciplinary action. So, and he's got to learn from it. So to me, like the Canadian Football League even mentioned it themselves. They don't want that crap. So Brendan, unfortunately, has to probably take a year off. And even some people will even thought of, well, what about the UFL? Well, he could take his chances, but who knows if The Rock and everybody else in the UFL organization is going to take a shot at him. He's a talented quarterback. I'm not disputing of who he is as a quarterback, but as a human being, you can make better life choices. But then at the same time, you got representatives who are trying to put this all up and on paper. And what did you think the league was going to do? This is why sometimes it's okay to set examples, because at the end of the day, you are evaluating what their next move will be, depending on what their mentality is set at. This is why discipline is necessary. It's what makes all of our lives have the key balances in life. In order for you to grow, you got to be willing to grind. So, I mean, here's a question of it. How much responsibility does the institution of Indiana or Cincinnati have? They knew how badly this kid's gambling problems was and did nothing to help. And that's the other thing too, right? Is because it also comes back to college football, the NIL and all the rest of it, right? Because we all know athletes should deserve to get paid because they're putting in the body of work. They're all there as talented athletes. But at the same time too, like there are programs, there are things in which that Brendan can attend. Now, I understand from an institution standpoint is that they offer the programs, but at the same time, if they're offering them, the next move will be, are you taking it? That's the question as far as from a human being standpoint. Now, whether the institution knew about it or not, I mean, that depends. I'm sure the stories may come out, but at the same time, they're not doing any favors. They got too much other fish to fry. They got to figure out how to balance themselves with the NIL. They got to figure out how to balance with the recruitments and the scheduling. This is why I keep saying that they need a CEO in place, because there's too much money flying around on the table. But at the end of the day, right, they offer these things, but it's up to the human being at the end of the day to take those resources and move forward with it. If there is evidence and if there is a track record that Brendan has he's attended those meetings, he's attended those programs, he's attended the therapy sessions, we'll never know unless Brendan tells us. Okay? But we know these things they exist. So that's why, like, when I look at this, I think at the end of the day, he just kind of screwed himself. And this is why the league is standing on business. Good for the league. Bad for Brendan Sorsby. You could have honestly have gone with this in a totally different light. But at the end of the day, it's everybody's choices and it's the consequences that come with it. But this is why you got to be willing to learn it, and you got to be willing to want it. If you want it this bad, then you got to do something about it. All right, time for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
All right, so some piping news that came out. So the LA Angels of Anaheim, who, man, don't we just love talking about them? Well, it just came out a few seconds ago that the Angels have fired general manager Perry Minasian. And to me, does it help them? Not really. It still don't help them. So they fired their GM. People are all excited about it. And now John Mozeliak is going to now be the interim general manager, who is the baseball operations consultant now for the Angels, taking on the GM business. And that's going to be a lot up and onto his plate. But Perry Minasian, this was never, ever going to work. And I keep saying this. The Angels are just a laughingstock, because to me, they've never really done better for Mike Trout. And at the same time, they're caught themselves now in a whole bind because of the fact of, with the Anthony Rendon situation, several different contracts that really hasn't worked out for them over the years, even before Perry Minasian got there. So the Angels, it's a change of scenery up from them. But at the end of the day, it all starts from the top. Because Artie Moreno, I don't know what he's trying to do. Like, every Angels fan wants to see better and the good in this organization, and I don't know when they're going to get it. And unless Artie Moreno sells the team, which I thought that was what they were going to do the last 2-3 years ago, and now, nope, they lied to us, and now, they get a GM, and apparently now he's the one that has to take all the blame, and they fire him and they let him go. But that still doesn't really solve your problem unless the person up and at the top does something about it. So speaking of it, because the New York Mets, we know this has been such a sideshow of a season for the Mets themselves, but they did end up making a move. And to be honest with you, this was kind of way too late for it. But the Mets, as we're going in close to the month of July, have now fired Carlos Mendoza, the manager of the organization, and now they're going to have their interim manager stepping in. So this should have happened months ago, because if you look at it, the Phillies did something like this before, but it was early. They let go of Rob Thompson, and they did not look back. And so to me, but the Phillies, they did the right thing, because they bring in a guy like Don Mattingly. And so Don, since he was the manager of the Phillies, they've been on a hot streak. Not so much for the Mets. And right now they're really regretting it. Unfortunately for the Mets, they're going to have to undergo this whole entire mess of a season. And it sucks. This does happen for teams, but David Stearns, the GM, and obviously Steve Cohen, this is an organization that just really has to get right. Much like the Angels, who doesn't solve a lot of things, not really, because it all has to start from the top. And David Stearns, after letting go of Carlos Mendoza, now does this pose Carlos Beltran to maybe potentially be a manager? Not a bad possibility, but also you're asking somebody to, in 4 months, turn this thing around. That's a lot. They do have time, but that's a lot on their plate. And the Mets, here's the thing. They let Pete Alonso walk and go and sign with Baltimore. That was a dumb mistake. And then at the same time, they banked on MJ Melendez so much that even he's not even performing. He's already at below 200 on the batting average. And they just brought back Tyrone Taylor after being on the injured list. So I don't know what the Mets are doing. I really don't. But I understand one thing. This needed to happen, but this is way, way too late. So I really did not enjoy that. So moving forward, the trade in which that ended up happening over the last couple of days was obviously the Brady Tkachuk move to the Florida Panthers. And I really do love this move. The fact that the brothers now are reunited since the Team USA team that won the gold. And I think, to me, like, they are very, very excited. And even for the dad, Keith Tkachuk, it's been a great day for the Tkachuk family, because Keith Tkachuk now is a Hall of Famer. Brady Tkachuk now plays with his brother Matt in Florida. And so there's a lot to really love about this. But it has been stated for the last couple of years where the Florida Panthers, even when they went back-to-back, they were eyeballing Brady Tkachuk for a long time, because they know him and Matthew, such a close relationship as brothers, but they know that these two are a dynamic duo. They're great. And in my opinion, like, I think Florida, they revamped their offense. I do believe, in a sense, like, the goaltending's an interesting situation, because Connor Hellebuck is a name that's been thrown out there. So the Florida Panthers are down, but they're not out. But they can make it happen. I mean, no state tax there. And I think it's clear, like, they are building a powerhouse. I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Florida Panthers wanted in on that too. So I think for them, they're very excited for this. USA Hockey, I mean, this is perfect. This was absolutely perfect for them. All right, that's going to do it here for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
Derwin Gray around the corner. So here's what I'm thinking about with the Giannis trade situation. And I know Miami fans are excited. And I don't want to be a complete buzzkill, okay? But let me just tell you something. The Milwaukee Bucks really did get an absolute overhaul for Giannis. Giannis is getting up in an age. And at the same time, too, Miami needed another star next to Bam. Because once Jimmy Butler was gone, Tyler Hero was off and on. He wasn't really like the guy that you would have hoped for, that would have taken that extra step. And so, in my opinion, this was a move, of course, Miami knew they needed to make, because the next move would have been the next move probably would have involved John Morant and a couple of other pieces. But I think with Giannis, because in this league now, we know this league is not big on bigs. Not anymore, not what it used to be. But as far as defensive and cluttering the perimeter, it's still important. You're not going to have guys driving up and into the basket that easily. I mean, you watch the finals in which Wemby was just getting picked on left and right by the Knicks. And so what you really want to do is you want to solidify where you are shutting down all lanes. And that's my biggest thing. So I think Miami, they got themselves a good player, a really good player, a former champion. But it's clear they want a duo up front. I mean, you looked at the Mavericks, how they did this a couple times. You watched a bunch of other teams that have done this before. So to me, they're cluttering the perimeters, but they definitely need a scorer on the point guard, because I love Davion Mitchell, but to me, he's a defensive guard. He's a guy that is going to distribute you the ball, really good at pass handling, and then at the same time, he's really good on defense. So they need an offensive scorer. And we know that they've got themselves a guy that can drive up into the basket, a guy that can give you buckets, and Bam Adebayo, who I really do think that the two of them, there's a really good duo. But let's be honest here. Milwaukee really got a really good overhaul. They go and get Tyler Hero, which there's talks about them moving on, and they really aren't holding on to him for very long, but they certainly do want to get more than what they can get. And if you think about it, kind of going back into, the NBA draft, but there was a lot of really good names. There was a lot of really good moves that happened. And it was very clear. I mean, Milwaukee, they know that they're clearly up and into a type of rebuild, because then they get rid of Bobby Portis. And so I don't blame Milwaukee for doing that. I really, really don't. So I'm kind of looking at the draft, the draft results up from here, because to me, I think this works out really well. It works out for both parties. And I know a lot of people really thought that, Giannis would have probably been a Laker, or he would have gone elsewhere. But Milwaukee, they go and get themselves Braden Burries. They go and get Nate Ament, which I really do like Nate Ament. I think this is a really good pickup for them in the draft, because at least you're going to get yourselves a really good offensive scorer. And even in the second round, they also get Malik Lewis. So this is clearly a rebuild. This is clearly a refresh, a rebuild, and it worked. And I think honestly, it's going to work out for Milwaukee in the future. So I think I'm fine with this. But I do think that for Miami, because we know Pat Riley is a guy that is willing to take a big swing, and he's been eyeballing Giannis for a long time. He knows about stars, okay? A guy that was a former player himself and a former coach, and now being the guy making all the big moves. I mean, this is just what he does. So I like it. I really, really like it. So, but I think it worked out for both sides. So this was interesting. I don't understand this. So the grades that I'm seeing on ESPN, okay? So the trade I talked about earlier with the LaMelo Ball to Minnesota and Naz Reid to Charlotte, okay? So they gave this grade for LaMelo Ball and Josh Green a D+ for Minnesota. Are you kidding? What are you looking at? What are you honestly looking at? So, and there was a comment that was actually made. Some people hate it because the fact that LaMelo is flashy and shoots one-legged 360 fadeaways, but the GM did the right thing. So, and it was a tough decision. But this is also another thing. LaMelo has been playing solo ball for the longest time in Charlotte. Okay, let's be honest. He hasn't even gotten into playoff basketball yet. And I think with surrounding yourself with a guy like Anthony Edwards and toughening yourself up, I mean, is exactly what they need. And here's the thing. The Hornets get Naz Reid. He's a really good player. But they also got that Knepel kid. And then they've got a couple really good draft picks I really did like. And I think it works out really well for the future. In the last few years with Charlotte, they have always been a development organization, and then you ship them off and you get more and more picks back, and you just kind of get more money in the pocket afterwards. That's just what they do. I don't blame them for it, but we're not going to sit around and think that this is a terrible move by Minnesota. I strongly 100% disagree. I think this is exactly the move that Minnesota needed. It's the move they needed to make. I don't understand it. Some people might have a different view of it, but to me, I got nothing. I think this is a really good move. I really do like it for Minnesota. I think this works out perfectly. And I think you are going to see a different version of LaMelo because in the end, Anthony Edwards don't take no crap. Tris Finch is a smart coach. And then at the same time, like, he's been playing solo ball for the last couple of years. Now see what he looks like with a contender. Because Denver, the Lakers, OKC, and the Spurs, Minnesota needed to make a big swing. And I'm happy of the fact that they did this. All right, going to take a break. Derwin Gray around the corner here on the Snake Sports Talk Show.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Welcome back here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Derwin Gray around the corner. So the NFL season can't come around the corner faster than it should, even though that, we've had OTAs, we've had camps, we've had a lot. And a lot of different changes and a lot of different moves. So I love interacting with fans. I really, really do. Like I go up on outside, outside off the air. And I talk with a lot of people up and on social media. Sometimes, it just depends how much brain capacity that I truthfully have sometimes. But it happens, I don't ever get upset. I just love the conversations. But here's something that in the last couple of a month, okay, we've had camps, we've had OTAs, we've had everything going on. And this is just me kind of verbally speaking upon this into existence, but this NFL season is going to be great because the fact of, you watched last year and you started to see by just the teams that you're going to take seriously and the teams that might actually have a better turnaround and a better jump. And the other thing is that many people have been evaluating quarterbacks. Okay. And it's been the most fun, the most interesting, but sometimes though, you often get into conversations where when people evaluate quarterbacks, right? I mean, fans always try to evaluate quarterbacks all the time, but you watch scouts, you watch analysts, you watch so many other media personnel. And when they explain about quarterback, there's some of it I actually do respect and take. And then there's some of them I don't even agree with. But this season's important for so many other quarterbacks this year. I mean, I've been saying this all the last couple of weeks is number one is, Cincinnati, they got themselves a defense, and they're going to be healthy, and they're going to want to take a run and take a stab at the AFC North because Myles Garrett is not there. Yes, you've got TJ Watt and you've got the Steelers, but the Steelers are so wonky. And at the same time, too, the Ravens have a new head coach. Steelers have a new head coach. The Browns have a new head coach. And Cincinnati, you're the only one that still has Zach Taylor, who I don't even think they're going to be moving off of that easily because of the fact that the offense has been explosive. But every time when we evaluate quarterbacks, every response that I've heard is, oh, Joe Burrow just always gets hurt. Like, it's just disingenuous to the player themselves. I mean, they're the quarterback. And at the same time, we know what Joe Burrow is when he's healthy. Okay, he's a Joe Burrow that gets to the AFC Championship. He's a Joe Burrow that gets to a Super Bowl. And at the same time, like, he shapes up what Cincinnati should be. But we all know the ownership between the Brown family, like, they're mostly frugal. And it's what I think drives Bengals fans crazy, all for this. But for outside perspectives, like, people think Joe Burrow is just always going to be injury prone. I know everybody all thinks about it, but at the same time, I know what he is when he's healthy. Like, the Bengals are an over 500 team. The problem was Trey Hendrickson, he was a one-trick pony, will get you sacks, but it's not stopping a run. Like, he's not a part of a run-stopping defense. And that's why moving on from him, I was fine with, because we knew that the relationship was split, and then they go get Dexter Lawrence. They go get so many other different pieces, and I like with what they picked up, because Geno Stone was not the answer, and so there's a lot of different things to evaluate. But in my opinion, how I look about this and see it, I think the Bengals may make the playoffs this year, because we always get brand new teams from last year that didn't make the playoffs that end up making the playoffs this year. Like, I'm set on Detroit making the playoffs, Cincinnati making the playoffs. And I honestly think that we could potentially see the AFC South really have some different changes. But I mean, the Jags could potentially go back-to-back into the division, and then who knows what's going to happen with the Texans. I mean, this is contract year for C.J. Stroud. We also know the Colts. I mean, they were kind of wonky up from there, but they were a really good team in the first 8 games of the season. And then there's the Titans, who they revamped up their coaching staff. They got a couple of new weapons. They got a lot of things. They got a lot of fun toys to play with. And so who knows what the season is going to behold. But here's the other thing too, is that when we evaluate all these teams and with all these quarterbacks, okay, I've always said this, that the NFC builds are always different than the AFC builds. Because the NFC is predicated to roster construction. There's competent quarterback play because you're seeing Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. There's all kinds of different quarterback play in the NFC, even Jared Goff. But we all know their importance is that they have to construct a roster, that they've got an O-line, they've got a run game, they've got a solid defense, even their defensive front and the secondaries, and then they've also got really good offensive weaponries at their disposal. But when you look at the AFC, and I personally, like, I'm an AFC fan myself, but I get tired of listening to the same cop-out responses over and over again. It honestly gets annoying. So, because in the AFC, in the last 25 seasons, okay, we have seen the dominance of Brady and the Patriots. I mean, we saw Brady win 3 of his first Super Bowls where it was more complimentary football. We have watched Peyton Manning go to 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams, 4 of them all together, and he's won 2 of them for each, and he's won 1 for each of them. And Peyton Manning's a competitor. We've also watched the Steelers and Big Ben. I mean, the Steelers have had some really good years, okay? And the Steelers have always been known to have really good years from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, and then all the way to the 2000s, okay? And Big Ben is a big part of this. And then there's the outlier years, which one was Baltimore and Joe Flacco. And then there was Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. So I think what people are having a really hard time with is the fact that you look around and you look at the AFC, okay, and all the teams, the quarterbacks represented. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Big Ben, and Peyton Manning. Those are the quarterbacks. And then your outliers are Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow. Whereas in the NFC, you got a new competitor every year. I mean, the Niners went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. The Eagles, they're the only team that has had consecutive years where Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. They only had the 2 other years where they had Donovan McNabb and they also had Nick Foles. You also watched the Seahawks with Russell Wilson with 2 years, and then have Sam Darnold, and then also have Matt Hasselbeck. So there's always a different competitor in the NFC, but that's why people are so ripped and torn by this. Because the AFC fans, let me be honest with you, they feel so jaded because the fact of they're seeing Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs and Tom Brady and the Patriots, and you know what? You got Peyton Manning, who's had 2 years with the Colts and 2 years with the Broncos. And then you have Big Ben and the Steelers. So they're so jaded this way because people feel like that the quarterbacks that we have in the AFC are so loaded, and they are. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and there's still other quarterbacks along the horizon. I mean, Bo Nix, like the quarterback play is so competitive in the AFC conference that I think it's what screws people's minds up because of this. Because you're watching the roster construction from the NFC side, which is why they're getting different competitors every single year in the Super Bowl. And then in the AFC, it's the quarterback play. Because people all think Joe Burrow is always hurt. Josh Allen can't seem to get over the top. Justin Herbert can never win a playoff game. CJ Stroud seems to be on a trend of which he seems to be regressing. Like, there are so many narratives that every time I listen to it, I have to tune out the noise. I feel like it's just so disingenuous to a lot of these quarterbacks who fight so hard that everybody knows it's really difficult to get to a Super Bowl. It really is. I mean, NFC fans probably don't even see it that way because there's always a competitor every single year. So, I mean, I feel for AFC fans. I mean, I've been watching this game for a long time, and I can tell you right off the bat, this is just what it is. All right. He was a former 7th-round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, also Maryland alumni, and joining us talking a lot more about the NFL and so much more here up and on the program, Derwin Gray joins us. You have been a part of, in the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Because here's my thing, is I've always respected what the Steelers have done for years. But in my last take, just before bringing you up, is I have been on conversations, and I love talking with fans off the air all the time. But my big thing is when we evaluate quarterbacks, do we evaluate them based upon their positions themselves, or do we evaluate them on the things that they haven't done or they haven't yet? Because to me, I have been hearing Joe Burrow's always hurt. That's just disingenuous because to me, it's like we know what Joe is when he's healthy. He's productive. He gets it to his weapons. Josh Allen is a physical freak. I mean, 2 years, right? These were battle-tested years until the interceptions cut down. And then they kind of came back up again. But he can run. He can throw. He's physical. He's not afraid to put his body in situations that are kind of harmful. Justin Herbert. He has not had a completion percentage less than 65% since he's been in the league. And his touchdown to interception ratio is ridiculous. But yet, can't win a playoff game. Unfortunately, is associated with an organization that now is doing better. So I just I was explaining about this, like the AFC, we have been so jaded because we've watched Tom Brady and the Patriots represent. We've watched Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs represent. We have watched Peyton Manning in 2 different teams with the Colts and Broncos represent. And then we watch Big Ben and the Steelers represent. And the 2 outliers are Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco. Like, how would you really evaluate this? Because to me, I feel like we got to stop being disingenuous to all these AFC quarterbacks who come into the field, put the work in, put in the grind, and everybody knows it's difficult to get to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of playing with Seven, as you mentioned his name, Ben Roethlisberger, when I was here with the Steelers, and I would say it's tough, man. And when you're playing with quarterbacks like I said, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in his prime, and guys like that, such of that caliber, the quarterback position looks so easy to the fans. It's like that's the pillar when they start to evaluate some of these quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and all these guys is on the rise, Joe Burrow, and they always say, well, Tom Brady didn't do that. Big Ben never had games like that. They didn't do that. Or if they did, they found a way to come out of it and still win the big game. Why not you? How could you ever be great? And I feel like that it's such a great honor to be put in a category of you should be performing like that, but it's almost unrealistic because the quarterback play now is totally different than it's ever been. The game is different. The speed of the defenses are faster. Defenses are smarter now. It's a lot of great defenses being played now, so quarterbacks have to change the way they used to maneuver to a new style of football, as we see, man. Like since I played, man, the schemes of defenses, man, these guys has found a way to disguise defensive looks. It's making it really tough for quarterbacks now, man. And I'm not saying that if Ben Roethlisberger and those guys was playing this era that they wouldn't figure it out because there was an offensive mastermind. They could pick defenses. I mean, it was the way they thought. Their thought process was just different. And me coming in as a rookie at the time playing for the Steelers, I thought it was phenomenal that the way that Ben Roethlisberger processed plays like he's seen it already before it happened. We used to come in. I'm gonna give you a quick story, man. We used to come into every practice. We open up with something called 7 shots. 7 shots is a red zone opportunity where you have 7 plays, 7 shots, 7 plays. You're doing the red zone, 4 plays for the ones, 3 plays for the twos. If you're a third string, you just don't get no reps. So being in the red zone, that was a way to wake the offense up. And we had an opportunity. We had Ryan Switzer out there. We had Juju Smith-Schuster. We had like Dante Moncrief. We had those guys out there. And it was like the defense giving us everything they had. But Ben was always calm. He never had a chin strap on in practice, beard hanging out. And it was always like, oh, I've seen this before. Fellas, we want to do this. Hey, Pounce, slide left. I take care of the rest. And it's like he didn't have to look here. Send guys in motion. Never look at the opposite side and hike the ball. Mind you, he never looks over here. Gets the ball and throws it. No look. Wide open. Ryan Switzer, touchdown. And it was like, how does he know how to do that? And that's constant repetition, and just being in the league. And I don't know who he trained with mentally to figure these type of things out, but those guys in the category of their own. And I've yet to see quarterbacks of that play yet. I'm not saying I had the opportunity to move on with Trevor Lawrence as a rookie and see how he maneuvered, and he struggled a little bit. He's starting to finally catch his rhythm, but I gotta say it was almost like a treat to play with Ben Roethlisberger when you had to think less as an offensive lineman. When you play with Ryan, when I played with Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, and also playing with Trevor Lawrence, it was a wake up call for me. Like, oh man, you really have to get in this book and understand this shit, because your quarterbacks right now, they're not understanding the protection. They're not understanding blitzes. They can't see it. So it was more onus on the O-line in those other 2 locations that I landed at. But Pittsburgh, it had to be a treat to play with Ben, man, where he just seen everything and made things so much easier. But back to your thing about the quarterback play, I think fans are putting it so hard on these quarterbacks right now where it's more than just the quarterbacks, man. The offensive line has a lot to do with the QBR and the perfectionist of the quarterback. The receivers getting to where they have to get at on time is another thing. When you have a lot of these receivers where they're not getting the ball and they just decoys and they just don't run. And they never know. They might be the last option through the passing progression. But they just say, oh, I'm going to take a play off because I'm not getting the ball. That affects the quarterback. Now he said, oh, this is my oh shit. We used to call it oh shit moment where everyone's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And now that guy's just jogging because he thought he wasn't getting the ball. So guess what? The quarterback, I can't throw it, sack. Now it's the O-line fault. Now it's the quarterback fault. But it's really that guy he was the oh shit moment. But he wasn't ready for the moment. But the quarterback can always get called out. So, I don't know, man. I get fired up about quarterback talk because I love my quarterbacks, man. Being an O-line, I love my quarterbacks, and I don't like people touching my quarterback. So, I think fans has got to understand it and give quarterbacks a little bit of slack, man. It's hard to really come in the league and to understand how to catch on all this information and have to run a whole team. Not offense. You have to run a whole team. Offense and defense and special team. Everything leans on the quarterback. Everything. The quarterback don't play defense. He don't play safety, linebacker. But if something goes wrong, if the quarterback had made the play, that would have made up for the defensive mistake. Some kind of way it ties to that now. So it's crazy, man. And I'm sensitive about my quarterbacks now.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I think it also comes back to the point of, like, NFC fans, we see a different quarterback play every single year in the Super Bowl. And I think the reason is because you look at the roster construction is different. Absolutely. Because they look at the foundation and they know they have competent quarterback play. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, even Caleb. I mean, you're starting to see the splash at some point in the NFC with the Caleb Williams, the Jaden Daniels, possibly the Jackson Darts. You know, I think the NFC is going to come to this point, but for so long, they've always figured out construction. I mean, this is also part of the reason the Seahawks ended up winning the Super Bowl, because one, they had a young, fierce, hungry defense. They also had really good special teams play, and they had the guys that also complemented so well to Sam Darnold, to where Sam is now building his confidence. He doesn't even have to feel shook in the pocket. He's just, listen, control the game, make the right decisions, and even if you make a mistake, you're not going to be shook by it. We're going to get the ball back. And I think that's ultimately where you're looking at it from a lot of these quarterbacks in the AFC. And that's why I'm like, man, I feel bad for Josh Allen. I feel bad for Justin Herbert with the fact that they're getting all of this. To me, like, I'm a Charger fan at heart, okay? And to me, I always hear this unnecessary crucifixioning of Justin Herbert every time when we have to talk about the playoff and the O-line. It's like, come on, man. Like, you really think any other quarterback can honestly play with the O-line that he did with 1.6 seconds in the pocket? That's just disingenuous in itself. And
just to jump on, piggyback on the offensive line talk, I know we want to talk a little bit about that. I'm just going to jump in. I don't want to stop you from moving on. But the offensive line play is a really tough position in the NFL. And I'm not giving the Chargers offensive line no pity whatsoever. No. But when I sit back and watch the film, when you told me a little bit about what you want to talk about the O-line, I looked at the O-line last season. First of all, inconsistency is the first thing I point out as an offensive line group. Inconsistency. And when I say that, it's because it was never a total of 5 guys out there through a full season. These guys interchanging. It was always new guys at guard, a new guy at tackle. It was always something. And when they really showed up when it came to the camaraderie of those 5 guys is on third down. Because third down is where the freaking bullets are flying. I'm talking about when you're saying all these wide 9 technique guys, these wide 3s that's almost 4 eyes, and these guys are coming and they doing stunts. And you can see guards and tackles are like, oh, shoot, what are we doing? Because no guys out there knew what was happening because they had no camaraderie up front. And that's not – I'm not saying it's all their fault. It's a lot of because you got to be prepared for that big moment to jump in and of course, like, you never know when that moment's going to come until it's that moment. And that's why every day you have to take every practice serious because guys went down last year for the Chargers left and right. You had big guys like Mekhi Becton was a huge specimen, but he was useful because he's not out there. And the best availability is being availability in the NFL. And that's how you keep your spot. Exactly. And a lot of those guys over in the O-line was always banged up. So that's why it really struggled. Herbert really had his struggles because of the lack of consistency up front. And that comes with communication. That comes with the gelling together. It was a time in Pittsburgh where when Pounce was my center, Pounce didn't have to tell me, hey, we doing this or left. He could just look at me and say, okay, I got you. because it takes time of being in that spot to the point I can feel you. You know what I'm saying? I can just feel you because we've done this before. We've been here before. But you can't say that for the Chargers O-line. So I'm not giving them no slack here. But I'm saying the fans have to pull back and understand. Look at the circumstance. O-line. You can't be an individual. A defensive lineman here could be an individual. He can go the opposite wrong way and fall into a play and make a fumble. Boom.
That's right.
Now he's a hero, but people don't know he went the wrong way. Luckily, he just fell into his hands, or he'd be losing his job. But an O-line go the wrong way? Oh, my goodness. All hell breaks loose, quarterback in the hospital. Who is that guy? Get him on the field. He'll never see the field ever in the NFL again. You know what I mean? So the pressure's on. There's no pity party for the O-line. But however, we got to understand it was never a consistent O-line at front. But they on the trending on the up and up right now with Jim Harbaugh. Shout out to those guys in camp. Got a nice starting five.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is the thing. Like, I'm in the same boat because ultimately it's go time from here on out. Because at the end of the day, in order for you to get the monkey off your back, you got to be able to be there available. You also, you've added in a bunch of weapons and a bunch of really good pieces that I really do like, that I think fit their culture. But at the end of the day, it lies on your shoulders. How do you end up overcoming a lot of these obstacles and, the adversity in your face? And at the same time, like, you got to be willing to be that leader to lead by example, because when things aren't going right, it's not to say that you go and tell the guy, like, screw yourself, I'm going and taking the game up on my hands. It's more of, look, this is not working right. We can be able to adjust this. And so I'm with you on that, because to me, I've always said, like, it wasn't the tackles I was worried about. It was the entire unit itself that had problems. Because to me, that's why I was like, I'm excited for Tyler Biadasz. I think he really can help out the center, because to me, that has been a problem, is the interior.
And I got to agree with you with that one. That was going to be my favorite standout is Tyler, man. Him coming from my hometown in Washington, D.C., man. And I seen how good he was with JD5 over there in D.C. and Washington. Had ability to cover the Commanders last season at Fox News last year. And I got a closer look at this guy. When he's healthy, he's great. He's a great player. And when we talk about just the as I was talking about the O-line not being together, I don't want to talk about the Commanders here, but just look at the Commanders' offensive line last year when he had so many moving parts. There was a total different team last year. Everybody said, oh, the Commanders, that was a one-hit wonder. No, wait a minute. Let's look at the receiver room. Let's look at the offensive line. Who is the same position every week in and week out? No one. They had a new offensive lineman every week. So how could we say that this is the same team last year? It's not the same team. That's why it should be the same result, because they got worse. No guys was there. Scary Terry didn't come to the middle of the year. He chose to opt out. So how could JD5 rely on him? Then, you know what I mean? Debo's playing every position, but I don't want to get too much into that. But I'm just getting to the point for fans out to understand, as a former player and not an analyst, you have to look at the consistency. And we got to look at, what is the problem? Is it really the offensive line, or is the fact that these are new people that don't even know each other that well? And they trying to figure it out on game day because we had a late guy go down an injury in practice. So we got to get the next guy up. Now he's out there scared as freak trying to figure it out. But it happens. And the fans can say, hey, he need to be ready for the big moment. But sometimes it's not that easy to say be ready for the big moment. He can be ready, but not still be jailed with that guy next to him. So I'm really happy for Tyler, man. I'm really hoping he's going to anchor that thing down inside. Man, I mean, they got a great talented O-line this year if they stay healthy. That's the biggest killer for offensive line is knees and shoulders. Those guys are going to really have to really hone in this offseason really on their stretching, hip mobility, flexibility, and working those small tendons to keep stand upright, because Herbert is dangerous when he has time back there.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing is he's also like he's unlimited, because the fact of we've seen what he can do with the deep ball ability. We've seen with what he can do with precise passing. And then the last 2 seasons, we've watched to see what he can do with his legs. So imagine now putting all those things together with competent coaching, with a competent O-line, and even for competent weapons. That's going to be a scary offense to watch for this upcoming season. So, okay. We'll get back to Washington here up and in a bit, because that is an interesting conversation. So I was saying this here up and onto the air, but, I grew in the old school mentality with new school tactics. And so being born in the middle of 95, I mean, that's the prime year right there for a millennial. So
Absolutely.
Here's my thing is, and I'm also a father of a 5-month-old son. I want to be able to share the balances of life. Like every choice you make always comes with a consequence of either way you play the cards. It could either be in a good way or sometimes could lead you into a dangerous road. And so when I watch the Brendan Sorsby story, here's my thing. I know when you go up and into college, you've experienced this, even been up in Maryland, but we know that college kids are adolescent minded. It's just built by design. You got the frat parties, you got, you're just enjoying college. But my big thing is that he made so many wagers in other sports, not even his own. And yet there are programs, there are, there are certain things that are out there, resources, I would say, that are available. But at the end of the day, it's the choice by the person that ultimately, do you want this more than anything else? I believe he's a talented quarterback, but then to go around, and obviously the NCAA is not going to reinstate him. I think they've already made that clear. But the NFL with a supplemental draft, if you're going to honestly walk around and think like, if you're going to act like Jake Paul, like, yeah, I run the show here, you're going to have a supplemental draft, you ain't going to stop me. The NFL's like, no, timeout, bud. Like, we don't play the easy spoon feeding game. Okay, we're not doing the supplemental draft. Then you got north of the border basically telling other teams, don't sign this kid because they're making an example. I'm the kind of parent that discipline is necessary when you need it to be for balance of life. And I think Brendan Sorsby is experiencing this right now. So what do you think of this situation? Because to me, I think the NFL, the Canadian Football League, and if the UFL opens up for next spring, I'm sure they're going to be on the same boat too. But I think they all got it right because this is not an easy handout to come into this league. You got to prove to yourself that you want this more than anything. I'm not in Brendan Sorsby's life. I don't know what he's doing, but the hope is that that's the lesson that should be learned.
I sat back here when we looked at a little bit of prepping for this show, and I just sit here looking at the Brendan Sorsby situation. And I sit back and I look and I say, does he deserve this?
Yeah.
And as I went back and forth and I said, he's just a kid. He don't know no better. And first thing that I said, he don't know no better. Then I asked him my own question, say, well, he should know better. He had different guys that came before him that made this mistake.
Right.
I mean, it's a plethora of different people. We have Calvin Ridley, lost his whole eligibility. We had a couple soccer players, baseball players. As we know, we had the basketball guy. I forgot his name. I think his name was Porter. Got banned. He played for the
Terry Rozier.
Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups. You have all these guys. You had the Porter guy that played for the Toronto Raptors that got banned for life for the NBA. He could never play a game again because he bet on an NBA game. So you can't say, hey, I didn't know. We all watch TV. We all have one of these things called a cell phone, and we all watch social media. And you see time in and time out again that people are making the same mistake. So I would say, yes, come on, get a kid some leniency. He didn't know. But I would be doing myself a disservice saying, no, he did know. So the fact is that you still thought you were going to cut some corners because you are Brendan Sorsby. You are the guy, and everyone loves you. You can play. You can throw. You have strong arms. You have 3,000-plus passing yards when you did play a full season. I mean, I looked all through this guy, and he is the part. He is an NFL quarterback. But however, when I look at this thing now, this is bigger than Brendan Sorsby here. This is a life lesson for kids that's coming behind them that you will have to pay for your consequences one way or another. You always going to get found whether you think you're sleeping through corners or not, and your talent is just one thing. But accountability is the biggest thing when the NFL is looking for.
100%.
When we go to, and when I went to my NFL combine experience, every coach, when I had my visits at the train station in the combine in Indianapolis, every coach asked me, can I trust you? And that's the biggest thing the NFL wants to know is we going to have me guys or we going to have we guys. And they want everybody that's we guys. They don't want any individuals in that locker room. So when you see a guy like Brendan Sorsby that's trying to sneak out money, and once again I say, why is he chasing money when he has NIL now? It wasn't like when I played, I didn't have NIL, so you had to try to take a little change left and right to pay you to get around campus to eat. But however, this guy's getting NIL money. How much more money do you want, dude? Now let the rest of your football play take you to the big money. You're already getting money, so man, I'm already to a point where I think these college guys don't even love football anymore because they're getting so much money. Now, so when I see situations like this, I'm like, dude, now you're just being greedy. You know what I mean? But once again, I think this is exactly what he deserves. I think it's a learning situation for him, but more so this is a story to tell for the younger kids that come behind him. Dude, be accountable. Be a leader. Don't be a guy out here doing what you know is wrong. I know it's so simple. It's just betting. Who cares? It's my own money. It's like I'm not hurting nobody, but it's the fact of you can't do it. Rules are rules, and it can't be broken. And when you do, there are consequences that be paid. So no matter where you think you are in this draft thing and how well you think you're playing and how big you think you're in college football world, the NFL doesn't care about that because the guy that can do the same exact thing that you can do for cheaper. And they'd rather go cheaper rather than paying the most money anyway. So I think it was absolutely correct thing. And once again, if you look at the history of the supplemental draft, they haven't had a draft in like the past 3 years. So they're not picking on you, brother. They're not picking on you, brother. They're playing guys that supplement, that filled out paperwork that say, hey, I want to be in the draft last year. But guess what? They didn't do it. But they didn't blow the story up. Who's those guys? Nobody knows. Right. So how do you think those guys feel last year? Or the year before that? I mean, the last time I lived, when you think about the history of supplemental draft, it was only really 3 real guys. Terrell Pryor, that came out of Hall of Famer Chris Carter, you know what I mean? And there's only a few guys that came out of supplemental draft that was really worth a damn. But if you want to really take it there. So don't act like they stopped the supplemental draft just because they're picking on you. It just happened to just be an outlet that you thought you had, but they probably had already in mind that they wasn't doing anyway. So it's a time for you to go back, train, get your body right, and go influence the community. Use your influence that you have to go help the next generation that's coming behind you not make the same mistake that you just did. You have the ability to now help someone. Where you still got the whole future in front of you now, Sorsby, but you have the opportunity to go help someone now. The NFL want to see how you're going to use this moment to not say, oh, they picking on me. Oh, this is the worst thing ever. They want to see how you're going to step up as a man and say, yes, I did it, but this is how I'm going to change the situation, to change this narrative around my name as a guy that's addicted to gambling. Yeah. Gambling. That sounds like a freaking guy that's going to be broke in the league.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is just like disciplinary actions are necessary when something like this, like it's a continuous train. And we're supposed to be like, oh, he is a kid. At the end of the day, it's what they need. How are they supposed to grow? Even when you're in the pocket, you're dealing with getting harassed every time when the edge rushers, the linebackers. How are you supposed to prepare for that and how to navigate out of it? It's the same thing in life. Like, nobody's ever given an easy road. I mean, hell, I wish I could be living like the Joneses, but it don't work like that.
Absolutely.
But, and so, I think this was the right decision. And at the end of the day, Sorsby, take a year off if you need to. Get your mind right. At the same time, get yourself in game ready, in form. And at the end of the day, like, even look at all these UFL players. These guys are proving to themselves they're worthy to come into a contract. We see the signings in the last few years with spring football, and I think they've done a great job.
And I played in spring football. Spring football is a great thing. I mean, to be honest, if I'm him in this situation, I wouldn't sit here and tank it. I say if you still want to play football and you still truly have the love of football in your heart, I would go play in the UFL or CFL to do something. But you can't play in the CFL because that will forge your NFL ability next season. So I will wait till the UFL season come back around next season, which is in January, February, and I will be the first guy over there in some training camp proving myself, working like I've never worked before, and trying to go keep my body in shape and continue to keep game reps, because you can never really practice for a real game. So the only way you get a real game reps is to go play it. So to do that, you won't get that sitting on the couch or throwing footballs on trash cans or throwing in the backyard with your buddy. You have to go put the pads on and go play against a real defense to really go see real moving defense and alignments and all those things. But once again, that's the only thing I encourage him to do. I think he should go play in the UFL this next upcoming year to continue to get those game reps, because once the season's over in June, you'll be getting ready and you'll be in shape, ready to go to an NFL camp and go prove yourself, and that will be now history. Now you have the opportunity to leave that in the past. But I think this is, once again, overall, this wasn't to point Sorsby out. So Sorsby, ever hear this, don't feel like people are picking on you. The NFL is not picking on you. This is a business decision to protect the shield. The shield, the thing that's on your front of your jersey or the thing that's behind me right there beside that Jaguar, is called the shield of the NFL. They're protecting that more than anything so they can keep the integrity of the NFL so guys don't think it's okay to make mistakes. And Roger Goodell will say it's okay just because you're a first-round talent, come on in. Because it doesn't work like that, buddy. So, hey, Sorsby, I'm a huge fan of you, dog. You're a great talent. Continue to keep working, man, and the sky is the limit for you, buddy.
Absolutely, man. Well, circling right back up and around. So talking about Pittsburgh, here's what I have to say about this is the AFC North, it's completely different now. I mean, the Steelers have a new coach. The Browns have a new coach, and same with, the Baltimore Ravens. But my big thing is that, I look at Cincinnati and ultimately they still have their coach. I mean, the offense, when they're healthy, they can still explode. But when I look at Pittsburgh in the last couple of years, and you've played alongside with Big Ben, I've been saying this for years. I think Pittsburgh kind of messed up in a sense that there wasn't a future successor behind Big Ben that honestly could keep the Steelers consistent. So with this move now, with Mike McCarthy, they needed to fix up offense because at the end of the day, the line wasn't quite consistent, and there was also some health issues there. The other thing was they moved on from Najee Harris. Jalen Warren I really do like, and they bring in Rico Dowdle. And the other thing is, thank God they got a number 2 receiver next to DK Metcalf with Michael Pittman. I think this was necessary because the wide receiving room, they have had talented guys that have come in here, but then immediately they were just shipped off afterward. I mean, Martavis Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, George Pickens, like these guys have been moved on. I've never seen. Yep. And I mean, Pittsburgh never had a problem with wide receiver talent. That's been in their history. So, but what I look at is Pittsburgh, is this the time where they turn the leaf, where they're not just making the playoffs? Are you winning through in the playoffs? And I think that's what we're about to find out with Mike McCarthy reuniting with Aaron Rodgers, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I really wish 2 years ago they would have traded away TJ. My honest opinion, I would have got more picks. I would have paid my money elsewhere because in the end, I would have been okay with Pittsburgh going and getting Abdul Carter, in my opinion, because he's got 5 years until you end up paying him, right? Then you go and get your offensive line. You go and get your offensive players that you need to because you got to score points. If you cannot end up scoring up 25 plus points a game, that becomes a problem and it wears and tears on your defense. So how do you evaluate this Pittsburgh season? Because to me, I still think they can make a competition run in the AFC North, but I'm looking at Cincinnati. They fixed up their run defense. I'm looking at Baltimore with a new identity, yet still the same philosophy. What do you think's kind of going through Pittsburgh's head?
Right now, it's tough, man. I mean, I feel like Pittsburgh right now is going to go through a lot of growing pains because, I mean, remember early in the show when I spoke a little bit about how the quarterbacks control the team, not just the offense, and I feel like 7 had such an aura in Pittsburgh that controlled the whole 3 phases of football for some reason. He was a guy that controlled that situation. And when you see Ben, if you was goofing off, you changed your ways. I don't know if Pittsburgh still have any respect for each other in that locker room, because when I played there, it was such a great amount of respect for each other that you had veteran guys that been there for so long, like Pouncey, Dave DeCastro, Alejandro Villanueva. You had Ramon Foster. I mean, you had guys that was there up front, for example, just the old line that was there for so long. When you was a young guy coming into that room, you had to adapt or you won't be there. You know what I mean? You had to be an A-list player, which Tomlin always said in his Tomlinism. He's looking for A-list players. And if you're not there, find a way to get there. And that's just something that Tomlin preached. I don't know Mike McCarthy's coaching style. I know he's buddies with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if that buddiness is going to take them to a Super Bowl or to a playoff victory. I don't know. But I know individually they both had a tremendous success. So when you're talking about them as a team, the camaraderie together, that concerns me up front. The O-line haven't been the same since Pounce, and the whole shebang has broken up. It hasn't been the same since. Since that starting five of that say that I was there with, haven't been the same since they all left. And I don't know why. You had Dan Moore. You got the big boy from Georgia, the one that got 77 now. Dan Moore was the right tackle guy from Georgia. Broderick Jones. You had guys like that that's promising, but however, it's the NFL. College tape is college tape. When you're going against pros guys, it's not going to look as pretty as it did in college. You're going against guys that's seen there, been there, done that before. So those moves used in college going to be a little bit more harder to perform now going against Myles Garrett and all those guys that's now Javard Verse and all these guys that's pumped up to get to the quarterback. You got to find new tactics, and it's tough in the league to block those guys for 80 straight plays. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I got to find some type of consistency up front, and that's what's going to move the needle for the team. They got to find out who's that five that's going to run this team, because it starts with the O-line and D-line in every locker room. Those the big guys who everybody follows. Michael Pittman, sure. DK Metcalf, sure. But nobody, they don't block up front, they don't get the ball delivered. James Warren don't have the season he want. You know what I mean? So I feel like they got a lot of pieces. Jalen Ramsey, I'm a huge fan of, but I think he needs to step up more, be more vocal, and take control of that defense. He has been there, done that. He's been on great teams in the Jacksonville in 2017 when they was loaded. He had played really well in Miami. He's played well everywhere. I think he has to take over this team and bring that steel curtain, that Pittsburgh pride back out. I want to see that yellow tie when people in Acrisure, which I still call Hines, going crazy, man. People got to give somebody in Pittsburgh something to be pumped up about. The Steelers don't know. These fans come to the stadium now, and they don't know if our team will lose or don't get blown out. These guys, when we played back in the day, these guys came to the stadium. They knew, oh, it's going to be tough coming to play against that black and gold. These dudes coming here to work every day, and that's what Tomlin preached was out working, guy. So I just want to know what my biggest question for Pittsburgh is, just as much as for you, is what are y'all going to do to separate yourself in such a competitive division now? When everyone's getting better, when Joe Burrow has something to prove, where he had the season he did not have last season, where guys, Jamar Chase, he's coming out for more. You know what I mean? You got T. Higgins want more. You know what I mean? You got Lamar Jackson still pissed off since last season that he didn't get to play well. Everyone was hurt. So he got that he has to prove. You know what I mean? So Cleveland, I mean, yes, they got Javard Verse and he's losing Myles Garrett. So I know the O-line and all three teams are like, we don't got to deal with him anymore. However, Jared Verse is still a great player. He's coming. So, I mean, everything. Deshaun Watson is now back. So it's a lot of things that's now getting better in this division now that everybody going to have to step up. And I think Pittsburgh is really going to have their work cut out this season. And Mike McCarthy, I mean, it's a tough situation. You have some big shoes to fill. And I mean, it might be some shoes you might never be able to fill. But however, they want to see something grow. They want to see to go far in the playoff finally, where Tomlin was missing the mark the past few years. They want to see more of that now. So I think that I don't really have an answer. What do I think that's going to be at? But however, I think they have a possibility of having a great year under Mike McCarthy. It's all going to start with the O-line and quarterback play, though.
Absolutely. And, you know, I do like Troy Fautanu. I really do think that he's coming up in a big come up for the offensive line. And even with Jalen Ramsey, like, I see him more up and into the safety position, because I just think there's kind of a step he's lost slightly, but at least in the safety, he can still read it. He can still vocalize. And I think you just needed some speed and coverage up and into the corners end. So it should be interesting, but I think the AFC North is in good hands. But it's more wide open than I've ever seen it be in quite a while, because it's always been a bloodbath in this division. So another division that I think is interesting to watch is the AFC South. So you played with the Jags. This is the best looking Jags team I've seen in quite a long time from last year. However, I mean, you had the 8-game sample from the Colts going 7-1, where Daniel Jones was healthy. Jonathan Taylor was running out of his mind. And then, you know, the Texans, CJ Stroud, there's question marks of whether or not he should get paid. But in my opinion, like, I look at the Titans, and many people don't really look at it from what I'm seeing. Is one, this is a second chance shot for Robert Saleh, and I absolutely love his philosophy that he brings in. He's a culture guy. He's tough. He takes no crap. And he's also a part of the reason that he was the Achilles heel for the Niners because no one else could do the job what he could with the injury bug, with the guys that were on the 5th, 6th, 7th string roster, and then they're playing well. So you lose that now in San Francisco. In comes Saleh to Tennessee. And, oh, hey, by the way, I'm bringing Brian Dable to help with Cam Ward because, number one, they believe in his talent and his ability. And I think if you match the pieces around him, this team can be better. They go and get some of Saleh's guys, Jermaine Johnson. So this AFC South, I mean, this is also one that's not even a guarantee in itself. But we always see 3 to 4 new teams that come into the playoffs, the teams that never made it last year. So when you look at the South, I think the Jags are in real good foundation, but it is building consistency. The Texans have questions with as far as do they pay C.J. Stroud? Is he really that guy? The Colts, cross your fingers, they stay healthy. And at the same time, they're hoping that this works for them. And then the Titans have a new future. I think the South is not going to be like the South that we've been seeing in the last 5 seasons now.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that, but I mean, I still believe the head of this, the AFC South is still gonna be the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are still, they had that bitter taste in their mouth from last season. I know Trevor Lawrence being under this guy. This guy's a workaholic, and there's no disrespect and no discredit to like C.J. Stroud and those guys in the other division and Cam Ward, all great quarterbacks. But I think just the elevation of the Trevor Lawrence and his play over the years, man, he's getting better and better and better and more confident. And he's playing through injuries. He's playing through ankles. He's playing through wrists. I mean, he's finding a way to win ball games. Yes, it's a tough game last year against the Bills, and I think that taste is still here in Jacksonville. I live in Jacksonville now. Still live in Jacksonville. And it still hurts to see the city that's still mourning from that loss. You know what I mean? Because they still felt like there was a Super Bowl team. And I think Liam Coleman, when he came in with his type of style, works for Trevor Lawrence. It works. Doug Peterson is a great coach, but I don't think it really worked. I think it was a one-hit wonder that was done. And I think Liam Coleman has a real strategy for his quarterback and Trevor Lawrence and his team, most importantly, of finding a way to get the best out of his guys. But another another team that we have to also consider is the Texans. I love their defense, and that starting forward, that up front right there, man, with those guys, Willie Anderson and those guys, man, is really getting after the quarterback and really causing problems in this division. And not just the division, the whole league. It's been tough playing against that tandem of the 2 edge rushers, man, Anderson and what's the freak guy, 55, strong guy. What is his name?
Danielle Hunter.
Danielle Hunter. Like those guys, those booking ends, man, has been giving a lot of people trouble in especially that division. So with that defense, man, like that, man, stack like that, it helps the offense with C.J. Stroud, takes some pressure off those guys when they keep the guys go out there and keep getting the ball back from them. So defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. I think it's really going to be a hunt between those two who take the first spot. And I think that whoever got the better defense is really who's going to take that, because both of the offenses are good. However, the Jags offense is a little bit more better than the Houston Texans, but the Texans defense is definitely better than the Jags defense. So it's going to be kind of a mix-up, and I think it's just going to be Titans still going to be the odd team down at the bottom at 4th in my opinion. I just don't think Cam Ward, not his play, but just the overall team around him, just not strong enough yet. And I believe he's a great quarterback. I think if he went into a different situation somewhere, I don't know, maybe Washington or something like that, he still would be a good quarterback, or depending on a spot that really needs a quarterback that has a good foundation around him, I think he'd be a better quarterback. Right now, it's tough to really evaluate him and say he's good or he's suffering, because it's just too many moving parts around and too many inconsistencies, once again, around this team where they still trying to figure themselves out. And I feel like, once again, this team has not been the same since when I left and departed that place, and Derrick Henry departed that place, and Taylor Lewan departed that place, and A.J. Brown departed that place, and Julio Jones departed that place, and Kevin Byard departed that place. I can go on and on. That team has not been the same in Music City since that team. And I think the last time we was there is when we lost to Joe Burrow and the boys in the playoffs. They have not been the same since then. So they have to figure out how to bring that energy back. But until then, they are going to sit last in the division, in my take. I think they will sit last in the division. I think it'll be a hunt between the first and seconds between the Jags and Houston. I think Jags is going to take it again.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, there's nothing wrong with even just, in the place in their division, because to me, you could be a fun team with an exciting future to watch in that position. Because at the end of the day, it's not like, like even the same way I evaluate the Raiders. I think the Raiders can win 7 games and still be 4th in a division, but there's a bright future because I have to see consistency. They got a new coach. Hopefully they've turned the page to really help out a 20-plus year dysfunction. They seem to can't get over the hump after all these years.
Absolutely.
But, when you look at the Titans, I mean, God, I love watching that number 1 seeded team, but it is unfortunate, but it is the NFL. And I think new look, new coaching philosophy, because to be honest with you, I already know that ownership is looking at, oh, crap, Mike Vrabel just got to a Super Bowl. What did we do? We're going to make this up, and we're going to go and get Robert Saleh. So that's why I'm like, they saw it with their own eyes. Yeah. I do got to ask you, though, because, so I've been running this show for 6+ years, eventually want to get into television and radio broadcasting. And I love seeing that former athletes are giving their honest and yet very creative mindset when it comes to covering teams, covering the sport, and being the analyst, because at the end of the day, people that have put the pads on, that have actually been in these in-game situations, I respect it so much more. Now, granted, we do have some of our guys that oftentimes I'm kind of like, I don't know about that take up from there. But in your experience from playing on the field and then sharing that off the field and covering, the sport itself, like, what does that mean? How meaningful is that to you to be able to give back in that sense and to kind of give people a different set of insights of what the game really truthfully is about and how people should honestly kind of evaluate certain things?
Well, first of all, it's been a blessing, man, just to walk away from the game and continue to put my foot forward into the television screens. And I always said I wanted to be on TV, man. It's a kid's dream. When you play sports, most of us, to go to NFL, basketball, whatever you want to, NBA, whatever you want to choose to do. But after that, it's to go talk about sports. You love to go be able to give your take and get paid for it. And most of the time for me, it was never about the money. It was really because of the love of the game and try to fix some of these false narratives about the game. And I mean, so when people talk about it and they give their takes, and some of these guys that never actually did it, once again, like you said, putting their pads on and never done it, but giving these outrageous takes. And then you be like, buddy, where did you get this from? But once again, it need more guys that actually play the game to tell you what it's like to be there in that situation. So for me, it's an honor to be able to have the opportunity to work on ESPN last year and as Fox last year and a local news station in DC and DC News Now. And to be able to give my takes, man, and be able to speak this stuff, man, and speak the game and really bring more clarity to fans and get them to say, whoa, let me understand more from a player standpoint and not from a fan or fantasy football or DraftKings or FanDuel standpoint. Of course, that's going to make you trigger every time. Like, what are you doing? But however, I think from a player standpoint, from the guys and the mental health and all the stuff that's going on in NFL, where there's a lot weighing on these guys' shoulders every weekend, that you just watch the game on Sundays, but you don't feel what the players feel Monday through Saturday. You know what I mean? It's a constant evaluation from the day you walk in the building, from the how you walk in the building, from the way you eat, from the way you get to the field, the way you tie your cleats up. It's a constant evaluation. And when I'm not right, you won't get a starting spot unless you a first-round draft pick or you have a lot of money invested. Right. But that's just one of the few. But what about the regular guys that's making good money, not saying low money, but great money, but not the best money, but those guys that's on the bubble every day? That's an uncomfortable feeling. So it's just an honor for me to be able to shed light on that, man, just the game and the aspect for the fans and for the people out there. And it was an honor, man. It's been tough. It's a hard road to get into television. I'm going to tell you that, buddy. It's hard. It's tough. But once you get your foot in the door and someone believe in you and someone trusts you, all you need is one guy. It's like NFL when you get drafted. You don't need 32 teams to love you. You only need one. And once the one team love you and someone take a chance on you and the next person sees you, then that's how you start to get the ball rolling. Boom, 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 boom. Before you know it, you're floating from different stations and different things. So it's fun, man, talking sports. I see the passion behind you, man. And I love the fire. I love the grit in the game, man. I love the knowledge behind the game. I love just the fact that you're talking sports, man. I think it's just an honor, man, to one come on your show and be able to bring some firepower to the show with you, but it's just great to see you with common sense of the game, man, and understand the game, man, and that's an honor to watch, man. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, it's creating a balance. It's unbiased, but it's also honest takes. Because to me, I'm always going to be a student of the game, no matter what. Because
absolutely.
there's always going to be different situations. But listen, I embrace the uncomfortability, because how else am I supposed to feel motivated? How else am I supposed to, be up and onto the grind? Because, for every 1,000 no's, there's always going to be one yes in the middle of all of that. And that's ultimately what we preach and what we teach about from here. And I love hearing a lot of the stories, because at the end of the day, it's experience. And then in the end, it's how do we now share that out, especially for a lot of our younger youth. And that's what I love doing the most. And I love having a lot of amazing guests like yourself that come up and express that. So really appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate the time to give your insights and really just giving your experience and up and onto the game, man. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting season. I'm excited for it. I think this has me in the last 2 seasons even more pumped up and thrilled to what the new storylines will be like in the NFL as usual. But, that's just the name of the game itself. And so
absolutely. It's like I said, there's been a lot of transactions this season. And I think I'm most pumped up to see Odell Beckham Jr. this season finally get his second crack at NFL football. So I'm excited for the guy. I mean, he's been working his tail off and expressing his want and need to get back in the NFL. And he had his opportunity to go take it back home where it started and made his career. So I'm most pumped up to watch him this season. I know it's been a lot of draft picks and a lot of stuff, but I think Odell Beckham has an interesting story right now. And I'm backing and watching the pivot and watching him shed tears about this is bigger than him to get back in the league, and to see his press conference after his first practice say that he wants people to understand that he's not a quitter. Most importantly, his son, because he felt he owed his son the opportunity for him to see him go play and not to give up on his dream. So I believe this time that Odell Beckham is going to flourish this year. I think he's going to shock a lot of people at his age. He's going to do damage in the league. I think he's going to get back to himself, because I feel like the lights and the glamour and the fame sometimes can take over the game. And I felt like a little bit in Odell Beckham's career towards right before he's tailed his way out, getting his way out of there, that the fame kind of took him a little bit, which led to injuries, soft tissue injuries and things like that. So I feel like moving forward now, I feel like he's going to take care of his body again like he's a rookie in the league. I feel like he's going to do everything like he's a rookie, where, you know what I'm saying, it's more focused than it's ever been. I think that's what he has to get back to, is what got him to this point. I think he had 2 years of thinking of that, and I think he found it. And I think this is going to be a great year for Odell Beckham. So I'm excited to watch OBJ.
Absolutely. I'm even more excited to watch Kyler Murray in a change of scenery in Minnesota. I mean, this is the most stacked offensive roster that he's ever had in his career. And I love DeAndre Hopkins, and I do love Larry Fitzgerald, but this is more than what he had up in Arizona. What can Kevin O'Connell honestly do with that? So it's going to be exciting to watch. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy it. Happy Friday. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, man. And we're so close. A few more Sundays to go until we're ready for preseason and a new season of the NFL, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me. And everybody, man, stay tuned. I'm coming out with my show called The Fourth Quarter Show. So just make sure y'all tune into it. You can follow on Instagram. It's a brand new social media. So I'll be getting rolling with maybe in the next couple of weeks. So it's about to be some firepower, some juice, and so we'll give you some nice hot takes, and we'll get rolling.
Oh, I'm going to be subscribing and I'll be tuned in for that, my man.
It's called The Fourth Quarter Show, baby. It's all about the clutch moments. Let's do it.
That's it, man. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Already.
All right, man. Absolutely love it. Derwin Gray, very, very passionate. And you know what? To be able to cover the game, and then at the same time, to just be able to share and express. I mean, that's what we're all about. So I love every bit of that. That was awesome. We've always had such fun times doing a lot of these interviews. Like this is awesome. All righty, folks, we're wrapping it up here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Next week, and more shows, and more interviews, more takes and discussions coming up here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Enjoy the weekend, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone.